Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission meeting for September 9th, 2014. Before we begin the proceedings, I'd like to invite Mr. George Monroe of the Evanston Avenue Baptist Church up to lead us in prayer, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Monroe.
Shall we pray? Our dear Heavenly Father, again we thank you for the privilege, Lord, that we can meet in this way, Lord. We pray that you would undertake for our manager and our mayor, and our commissioners and our clerk, Lord, that you would protect them at all times, Lord. In view of this meeting, Lord, that you would have all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. May we have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Here.
Commissioner German?
Here.
Commissioner Winston-Muskegon?
Here.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Gallren?
Here.
Commissioner Hood?
Here.
Thank you. Now, what was this you wanted me to mention, Madam Clerk? About the
Our
city manager's new hairstyle?
Yeah, new hairstyle, yes.
And that, otherwise known as a mohawk?
Yes.
And it was red the other day, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
It was in celebration of our Big Reds. And
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, if anybody wants to know, the city employees of the City of Muskegon were challenged this year for United Way campaign, and it was a stellar success, was it not?
Sure was.
And part of the challenge was the city manager and particular department and division heads would either take a pie in the face or something a bit more creative and semi-permanent, at least till it grows out. I don't know, had you considered a mohawk, Ms. Brubaker-Clark? No, you hadn't. Okay. But anyway, should you see the city manager, that is the rationale for it. But it's also a celebration of the marvelous generosity of our city employees towards the United Way, and the great work that they, through their giving, to that great agency, serve the people of the region. So, thank you very much, Frank, department heads for taking the pie in the face, and city employees for your generosity. May we have the consent agenda, please?
Approval of minutes, City Clerk, summary of request to approve minutes of the August 26th City Commission meeting. Staff recommendation, approval of the minutes. Certification of MERS representatives, finance, summary of request. The MERS plan document provides that the governing body for each municipality shall certify the names of 2 delegates to the annual meeting. 1 delegate shall be a member who is an officer of the municipality appointed by the governing body of the municipality. The other delegate shall be a member who is not an officer of the municipality, elected by the member officer employees of the municipality. The city's employees units previously agreed to a rotating system based on date of joining the MERS to select 1 official employee representative. This year, the official employee representative attending the MERS conference will be Steve Waltz, Police Lieutenant, from the Police Command Employees Union Group. It is recommended that Elizabeth Lewis, Assistant Finance Director, be designated as the employee's delegate. Staff recommendation, certification of Elizabeth Lewis and Steve Waltz to be the city's officer and employee delegates to the MERS annual meeting in Detroit on September 24th through the 26th. Part-time wage scale for police officer, public safety, summary request. The Director of Public Safety requests that the City Commission review and authorize proposed amendments to the wage matrix for non-union part-time employees. The Police Department will begin to implement part-time police officers per Section 38 of the current 2014 to 2016 police officers contract. Step 9, evidence court officer, grade 1, $20, grade 2, $21, and grade 3, $22. Starting of 1,000 hours to 2,000 hours of service. Police officer part-time, grade 1, $14.35, grade 2, $14.86, and grade 3, $15.37. starting for 1,000 hours to 2,000 hours of service. Officers may start at a higher grade based on experience. Staff recommendation, staff recommends adopting this amendment to the non-union part-time wage matrix to include part-time police officers. Approval of transfer of city-owned property at 2355 Lincoln, Community Neighborhood Services. Summary request. To approve the quitclaim deed and direct the mayor and clerk to sign the quitclaim deed to Muskegon County Habitat for Humanity, 280 Ottawa Street, for the vacant property located at 2355 Lincoln. Staff recommendation to approve the quitclaim deed and direct CNS staff to file the quitclaim deed. Renewal of maintenance contract with MDOT trunk line within the City of Muskegon Public Works. Summary request. The Michigan Department of Transportation seeks to renew its contract with the City of Muskegon for road maintenance on state highways located within the City of Muskegon. The City of Muskegon designates Mohammed El-Shatel, its Director of Public Works, as the contract administrator and maintenance superintendent on state truck line highways and authorizes him and Anne Marie Cummings, City Clerk, to execute this contract on the city's behalf. This is a 5-year renewable contract. Staff recommendation, approval of the 5-year contract and designation of Mohammed El-Shatel as the contract administrator and maintenance superintendent, and authorize him and Anne Marie Cummings, City Clerk, to execute the contract on the city's behalf. Muskegon High School Community Officer Agreement, Public Safety. Summary request. The Director of Public Safety requests that the City Commission review and approve the agreement between the City of Muskegon Police Department and the Muskegon Public Schools. The agreement is for a community officer at the high school during the 2014-2015 school year. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approving the agreement between the City of Muskegon Police Department and the Muskegon Public Schools for community officer for the school year 2014-2015. Youth Basketball League and Open Gym Proposal, Muskegon Public Schools, Planning Economic Development. Summary request. The City of Muskegon has contracted with the Muskegon Public Schools for the management of the Youth Basketball League and Open Gym since 2010. The program has been successful, and the schools would like to manage the program for the 2014-2015 school year. The Commission is requested to approve the proposal and authorize staff to enter into an agreement with the schools for oversight of the basketball program and the Open Gym program. Staff recommendation to approve the Youth Basketball League and Open Gym proposal and authorize staff to enter into a formal agreement with the schools. Consideration of bids for HVAC work at Public Service Building, Public Works. Summary request. Authorize staff to enter into a contract with American Mechanical to install heating pumps for 3 offices at Public Service Building to enhance heating and cooling at a cost of $9,843.25. Quotes were solicited from 3 qualified contractors. However, only 2 submitted bids. Staff recommendation, authorize staff to enter into an agreement with American Mechanical to install the pumps for the HVAC system at the Public Works Service Building for $9,843.25. Snow plows, Public Works. Summary request. Per the request of our Highway Department and checking with surrounding communities, we have decided to purchase 3 front plows. Hydro-turn, stationary from Truck and Trailer Specialties, Dutton, Michigan, the sole source provider of the preferred front plows being used by several surrounding municipalities. Staff recommendation, authorize staff to purchase 1 hydro-turn and 2 stationary front plows from Truck and Trailer Specialties, Dutton, Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioners, you've heard the consent agenda as presented. Are there any items you wish to have removed for further discussion?
Item C.
Item C as in cat. Are there any others? Vice Mayor?
Hearing none, I would move we approve the consent agenda as read with the exception of item C, cat.
Second.
It has been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by, I think I started hearing Rinsma Sabing peeping up, and seconding the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus item C. Is there any discussion? If not, roll.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsma Simbiga?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallren?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item C, Commissioner Turnquist.
Yeah, I would move that we adopt the amendment to the non-union part-time wage matrix to include part-time police officers.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Turnquist, seconded by Commissioner Johnson, to adopt the amendments to the non-union part-time wage matrix to include part-time police officers. Commissioner?
I'm excited to see that there, and I'm always optimistic that it adds some more police officers to our streets. My question is the wage scale, is that competitive with other communities in our area?
Yeah, we find that it is. Jeff, if you want to speak to that.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening. Yes, it is. We broke it into these two categories because we have filled the evidence courtroom officer position. We had a full-time officer that recently resigned from actually was going to resign, and then we were allowed to work with the Human Resource Department and Civil Service to allow them to transfer down to the part-time position. That is a very commensurate wage for that position because it's much different than the other part-time officers that's allowed by contract. And the other part-time officers will be more like working in the schools, working maybe in a hospital facility or maybe the college campuses or the beach. And that's more of like a patrol function. You won't see the part-time officers, though, on the road patrol, so to speak. So the wages we've got, $14.35, $14.86, and $15.37, those are very competitive with the Muskegon area. And that will be where the group of part-time officers will be, because the evidence courtroom officer is a specialty position.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? You're all set, Commissioner?
All set?
Very good. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rinson-Massivia?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. New business, please.
Road millage resolution.
Everybody got your copy?
Before we proceed, can we have the resolution read?
Certainly.
Right. Whereas city commissioners solicited community input through public forums and town meetings to obtain the residents' thoughts and concerns about the current condition of the streets and right-of-ways throughout the city, and whereas residents indicated a need for streets and right-of-ways to be repaired, improved, and maintained for the benefit of the residents and visitors, and they expressed a willingness to support a millage for such an effort, and whereas under the Home Rule City Act, the city cannot specifically place language on the ballot to levy a dedicated street millage in the charter, the verbiage in the charter states for municipal purposes. And whereas the City Commission passed a resolution to place a question on the November ballot to give the City Commission the authority to raise the millage an additional 4 mills, increasing the maximum mills from the current 10 mills to 14 mills. The language on the ballot states this proposal would increase the maximum levy allowed to 14 mills to be used for municipal purposes, including but not limited to road maintenance and repair. And whereas the commission is 100% committed to dedicating any additional mills above 10 mills and authorized by the voters to road-related investments only, now therefore be it resolved, the City Commission recognizes the importance of our roads, infrastructure, and right-of-ways to the residents, businesses, and visitors of the city, and is dedicated to utilizing the additional 4 mills authorized by the voters strictly for roadway infrastructure repairs, resurfacing, reconstruction, street lighting, and other right-of-way improvements for a minimum of 15 years in the following fashion. Estimated annual revenue, $2,240,000. Annual street lighting, $500,000 cap. Annual street sweeping, $190,000 cap. Street maintenance and construction, $1,550,000. An increase of $1 million plus from recent years' contribution and enough to reconstruct 1 mile of road annually.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Having heard the resolution, I would move that we adopt it.
Second.
Is it? It's been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Rinson-Massivia to adopt the road millage resolution as presented. Discussion, Commissioner?
Yeah, I've questioned this before and I lost on it, but street sweeping doesn't quite fit my criteria for the money that we're hopefully going to receive from the increased millage. $190,000 is a lot of money, so I question that. The rest of them very much needed.
Commissioner Johnson?
Is this new street sweeping, additional street sweeping, or will it be funding our current cycle of street sweeping?
Current
Current.
cycle of street sweeping.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I think we all share those concerns. Just for example, the annual street lighting is not additional street lights. It's paying for the existing street lights up to a point. We're actually spending more than that each year on street lights, and we've been forced to, because of budgetary issues, to reduce the number of lights for 6 going on 7 years now. This might allow us to stop doing that and retain the lights that we have. I guess my concern, and the reason I endorse this and would ask that all of us make a commitment to endorsing this and supporting this as this moves forward, not just through this election, but if the voters choose to approve this millage increase in the future budgets as we move forward. This is a solemn promise on our part toward the voters of the city of Muskegon that this is what we're going to do if they vote yes. And I think it's incumbent upon us with our vote to say, you can trust us, this is what we're going to do. And since there's an election every 2 years, you have every opportunity to hold us accountable if we ever break that promise. We have a very transparent budget process. Our budget is available on our website and at the clerk's office. And anybody who wants to see if this promise is being kept can easily do so. And so I hope our voters see the need to improve our streets and maintain our infrastructure, and I hope they're willing to put the effort into holding us accountable for keeping this promise. Now, I did have a question, and it's sort of informational. This indicates that we would be able to do about an additional mile of reconstruction, knowing that you can mill and resurface less expensively. Now, this is for local streets, because we do get some state money for the major streets. Is there somebody who could speak to how this compares to the mileage of streets that we're currently building at the local level or reconstructing at the local level?
You want to take that, Mohammed?
Good evening, Mr. El-Shatal.
How does it compare, you mean cost-wise, if I may?
Well, what I'm saying is right now we have a very limited budget for local streets. And so as a comparison, so as people are seeing, well, they can see the streets are getting, Merrill's getting rebuilt right now. And I think it would be valuable for me as I'm making a decision, and certainly for the voters out there, to compare what this would do in comparison to what we currently do in regards to strictly local streets.
If we were to extract or set aside the federal money that that is being brought to the city of Muskegon or used on the city of Muskegon streets, major streets, I would say probably almost double. We would be doubling the number of or the mileage that we are doing with the local funds, that we were doing with local funds. And I think that's what you're getting to. If we were doing 1 mile before, which I think we were averaging about a mile using local funds, we would almost double that. So we would be doing roughly 2 miles.
And I don't know if you, I should have perhaps let you know ahead of time I was going to ask some of this stuff, but ballpark figure, right now, I mean, we've seen what the total reconstruction costs for all our streets would be, but right now, what's the backlog as far as local streets that need reconstruction?
Well, I think we had, if you remember, the city manager had, at the goal-setting session, he presented you with some numbers. I believe it was in excess of $70 million. If we were to, if somebody was to say, okay, there's an open check right now, how much do you need, how much money do you need to bring all of our 170 or 180 some miles of roadways up to good conditions, we would need roughly about over $70 million. And then an ongoing investment of roughly about $5 to $6 million annually in order for us to stay or to maintain that plateau. So we are in desperate need for that 4 mills.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Those other
Commissioner?
questions?
Yes, I agree with the Vice Mayor when he definitely states that my infrastructure is definitely in need of service in the streets. And a lot of questions that I know I'm going to be faced with, and I've heard them before, is this millage is passed. what areas of the streets, neighborhoods, are this money will be directed toward? I mean, the streets in the inner city, will it be areas downtown? In residential areas, I'm assuming this is what we're trying to target, to fix those streets to, raise the property value in our communities.
We've done a couple of things. One is I have a map, and I think we all have to be sensitive not only to the actual needs for the streets, but also the demographics of our town, the distribution, equal distribution amongst all of the areas, north, south, east, and west. And I think we have been sensitive to that area in the selection of which roads we've done in the past. What I've done is also taken another step in the neighborhood association meetings. I have asked the neighborhood representatives, if you will, to please start talk to your neighbors, bring some of those streets to our attention, in addition to what we have a computer system that allows us to select based, somewhat an objective selection of streets, if you will. But it's theoretical, if you will, based on actual investigation and inspection of those distresses that exist out there. It's called pavement management system, that we can allow that system to choose which roads we should be doing, but that in itself is really not going to be sufficient. So we need the contribution of the neighborhood associations to call and bring it. We need your constituents to talk to you and tell you those are the streets that we need done, so we can bring them all to the table, and whatever funds we can get, we'll apply them toward those, keeping in mind that we have needs for utilities, if you will. If we have a water main like we're doing on Merrill right now, I mean, that street, most of those funds on that street, so it's roughly about $300,000. Most of that money is coming from sanitary sewers and water mains, if you will, and about $60,000, $70,000 from the street funds. So if the needs, the computer system, people's opinions, I think, were some of the items that were outlined, I believe, in the manager's preliminary outlook, I guess, if you want to call it that.
And I think the goal, within reason, was to try to focus as much of those dollars into the neighborhood streets as possible, at least as much as feasible, knowing that we do have needs on some of the major roadways as well.
I don't know if that answers your question, sir.
Yeah, it pretty much. And one street in particular in mind, and I hear it a lot, down by the farmer's market, is the Yuba Street. That definitely needs some love and tender care. And
we brought that, you do know, I mean, if those of us that we brought that before, back in the days when we had special assessment, Yuba Street was brought as one of the streets that we needed to do. That one, Mallard Street, Thompson Street, and Edgewater, and Estes, if I remember correctly. Those were the fives that were always defeated by the people out there because of, obviously, the special assessment. Not from a need. We recognize, as city officials, we recognize the need for those streets. Like I said, Yuba was one of them, Estes was one of them, Thompson was one of them, Mallard Street was one of them, and Edgewater were 5 streets that we always thought that they needed work.
Yeah, same thing with Benson.
But they got defeated.
So if this passes, though, there's a possibility that those streets would actually be maintained and...
Would be part of that pool.
Okay.
Depending on the funds, obviously.
I just want to go back to my original question. How many times do we sweep the streets now a year?
4 times.
4 times. And $190,000 is going to make it 5 times?
No, 4 times.
We're still going to, we're just...
As is right now.
Don't we have a budgeted amount now for street sweeping? So I just like to see that $190,000 go to street maintenance or street construction or lighting, which is visible and...
If you're asking me as the engineer, I would like all the money to go to the, including the police department money. So, but it's not.
Don't give him that. You take it,
but we have to do it. It's something that has to be done.
I know they're all important, but we're going to pass a millage, and from that $2 million, we're going to take $190,000 and support the increased cost to do our street sweeping. We're not going to do any more, but we're going to cover some additional costs, which has gone up. And you don't have that in the budget.
Well, what you have to, if I may, a couple things. One is if you look at that item in particular, and we put cab right next to that. So as the values of our properties go up, we're capping that amount of money that goes toward the street sweeping and
Street lighting.
the street lighting. We're capping both of those. Like Mr. Spataro had mentioned, the street light budget right now is probably $650, close to $700,000. The commitment, if you remember, when we had the budget discussion, in lieu of going for a special assessment, we decided, or you guys decided, that this is a more appropriate approach to go for, to take it from that special assessment, because we benefit and we, I think, show the residents the transparency that Mr. Spataro had referenced. We're we're suggesting that they be capped at $500,000. So as our property values go up, that $2.2 million anticipated revenue is not going to be 2.2. It's going to be roughly, maybe at some point it's going to grow to $3 million. If you remember back in the days with the income tax, the original anticipation was almost $2 million, and look where we're at right now. We're at a decent number that is higher than what was originally anticipated. So we're protecting the interest and the transparency that we're all after, and trying to assure the public out there that we're going to invest more money in the streets by capping those two amounts.
I'm either dense or stubborn. This is new money.
I can't answer
After
that.
we pass the 4 mil, we're going to have $2 million to spend. And I'd just like to see it all go towards the street lighting, maintenance, and construction.
As I look at it, and I think sometimes we might get lost on the word sweeping, but sweeping is an integral, essential part of road maintenance, and especially when it comes to what's under the road, because we got to pick up the stuff before it goes down into our sanitary. And it's also essential to pick up as much as we possibly can, so that we don't have mud and everything else caking to freeze and whatnot through the cold months. And I think an essential part too is that if we're able to use these funds here dedicated to the streets, as we discussed before, it takes that much more pressure off the general fund for making sure that we are maintaining other essential services such as police, fire, and the rest. Vice Mayor.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't street sweeping coming out of the street fund now?
No.
Or is that coming out of the general?
No, it's coming from the sanitation millage and
Okay.
general fund.
All right, so I guess from my perspective, we can look at it a lot of different ways. But if we don't pay for it one way, we're going to have to pay for it another way. And so to say, well, this will give us more money for streets if we don't include an obvious street maintenance item like street sweeping, that doesn't mean there's a net gain of money to spend on the streets. It just means we're moving that item from one budget column to a different budget column. And so I think the real discussion should be, is this something we're comfortable going to the public and saying, if you vote yes on this, on these 3 items, this is what we're going to spend. On street sweeping, it will not exceed this amount. On street lighting, it will not exceed this amount, knowing that as time goes on and those costs may change, we may be spending more and therefore subsidizing the street fund out of the general fund. And that everything else that comes in off of this additional 4 mils, which hopefully will grow over time, as pointed out the income tax has, that every part of that will go toward street repair and reconstruction. And I think if the answer is no, then I think we should have that discussion now. I think if the answer is yes, then we should move forward. And the reason I say that is I think we all need to be of the same mind with this. And to me, when we're looking at what we're talking about with the public rights of way, it's not just the condition of the pavement. It's, are the curbs and gutters functional? Is the storm sewer functioning? Is it passable or full of debris? Is it lit so that it's safe to travel? And not from a security standpoint, but can you see where you're going when you're driving in the dark standpoint? Are the sidewalks passable and so on? And now that part's not included in here, but that's part of our right-of-way. And so I think we have to look at those items as part of the function of maintaining the street system for the people in this city. And if we feel that these items fit within maintaining the street system for the people of the city of Muskegon, then I think we should move forward.
Commissioner Johnson?
I share Commissioner Turnquist's concern about that particular item, and I am tempted to put it all in annual or all in street maintenance construction, because that's what we talked about at the forums at Smith Ryerson and at McGrath Park in terms of raising the millage was to be dedicated solely to maintenance and construction. There was no discussion of including this millage increase to cover street lighting at that time. However, there was discussion of a special assessment for lighting at the time of those both forums. It was in our conversation about the budget afterwards that we then decided that we were going to include that in the millage. It's here now. I think it is being presented in a transparent manner now, and so I'm fine with including the street lighting. It is important. We need to pay for it. And I would hope that staff would dedicate some of this additional money towards replacing the old, less energy efficient streetlights and purchasing more energy efficient ones through Consumers Energy to reduce our utility expenditures over the long term. Now, with regard to street sweeping, I would be in favor of moving that to street maintenance construction. We did just raise our sanitation millage, which covers street sweeping. So I don't see why we're double dipping on this line item, so to speak. So I would be in favor of moving street sweeping to maintenance construction. And
Go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry.
please.
Because right now the sanitation millage that you're talking about raising it from 2.5 to 3 would not cover the sanitation, that would not cover the street sweeping and the sanitation contract.
Vice Mayor?
What does that say? We're taking advantage after people vote for the village and we've put something else in there that's not street lighting, construction, or repair. And that's where the calls come from. That's what the people, they got a big chuck hole. They don't care if it's been swept or not.
Well,
They want
let's
that
make
chuck
sure,
hole
but
fixed.
we're not taking advantage of anybody. We're laying out, the possibilities right now. But I think we were really clear on the streetlights from the beginning.
Yeah.
From a special assessment.
Well,
We were really clear on that, so,
May I have the floor, Mr. Mayor?
yes.
Thank you. We were all at the town hall meetings. We were at those discussions. We sat through the budget meetings, and we had those discussions. And the material is available for review. And one of the reasons why in the budget discussion we decided to scrap the idea of a special assessment and include the street lighting in the proposed millage for street maintenance is that the responses we got from the citizens who attended those meetings and other people who applied indicated they would be more favorable to including that in the millage and not interested in a special assessment. So I think that change was done in response to the feedback we got from those town hall meetings. That's how I recall it. I remember reviewing all of those survey cards. And, I think this is reflective of what they asked us to do. Now, when we look at the budget, we need to look at how things actually work. We don't own the streetlights. Let's make that clear. We don't own them. That was privatized, Lord knows when. They're owned by Consumers Energy. So we can't initiate a program of changing out those lights because they're not ours. And we've been working pretty persistently with Consumers Energy because, quite frankly, they don't do a very good job. In fact, I can think of one light where they have claimed to multiple neighbors that they've fixed it multiple times and it still hasn't worked in the windstorm this past spring. And it happens to be on a curve that's somewhat hazardous. Of course, the fact is the problem is a pole that snapped, didn't get hit by anything, just snapped because it rotted through, and they can't get easy access to that pole. But that's the problem we deal with street lighting. So I think we need to be upfront about what we're talking about, and we need to remember the decisions and discussions we've had over the course of the year on these topics. So, I mean, you know, let's be honest with the voters. Let's be honest with each other. There's no found money anywhere. So there are certain things we're obligated to do. And if we choose not to do them, it doesn't mean now there's more money available, in this case, for paving streets. It just means that that money's going to be shifted around, and the net result works out to be pretty much the same. I think this is much more transparent.
May I just mention something that hopefully will help? If we were to go and take the money, streetlights, strictly streetlights, we would be taking almost $700,000 from the $2.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
What we have proposed to do, I mean, the final decision is yours, is we're taking basically the same amount of money, which is 190 plus the 500, which accounts to $700,000. So if we want to go strictly streetlights, coming out of that millage would be roughly around $700,000. So it helped balance. I mean, it's 6 or half a dozen basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because the budget for streetlights right now is $675,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the main sticking point right now is past discussions have brought us to the point where I think there was a consensus or agreement on the streetlights as opposed to an assessment. So right now we have at least 2 individuals on the commission that are iffy, if not against the street sweeping. Any other comments so we can?
If I can make just one, and it'll kind of maybe help make your decision a little bit easier too on this, and that is, if the millage was passed and that $500,000 of streetlight expenses did come out of the 4 mills, right now we're anticipating in the current budget that it comes out of the 10 mil. So the normal 10 mil. So there would be room for the street sweeping expenses to come out of the normal general fund budget. Hypothetically, there would still be room there. So if that's a sticking point that makes it hard for the commission to come to agreement on this, we can afford the street sweep with general fund dollars and dedicate this 190 back into
one of the other 3.
Back into maintenance. It's not going to put us, in my opinion, want to put us in a difficult spot at all.
But the issue is we could face that we need to cut street sweeping if we, in next year's budgeting process, do not have that amount of money to budget toward. We are facing hard choices. We could cut the street sweeping at that point. I'm not. I can kind of see it both ways, but I think I don't know. It's a tough one.
If I may ask you, if we had you reached your hand in the pocket, you found $190,000, where would you put it of the other 3?
In my other pocket.
Your other pocket.
If I had 190.
What would you do if you found a?
Honestly, I mean, I think we all face the dilemma. I mean, there's nobody that wants to spend more money on streets than probably yours truly right here. So, but I do recognize that there's some other needs, and that's why I haven't been, standing right here before you and saying, well, I think behind the scene we should. I'm not following just a company line, if you will. I'm following what I think is really in the best interest of the organization. Without a police department, a solid police department, or a solid planning department and a solid finance department, we can't survive. We can do all the streets, and if we don't have a police and fire and planning and parks, we're not going to be any more attractive, if you will. So it's a balancing act, if you will. I mean, if I had $100,000 out there, the choice of keeping everybody the way they are or keep functioning, of course I would rather see it in the streets.
Commissioner Hood?
I think this is pretty transparent, and I feel that the street sweeping is part of street maintenance, and it's going to come from somewhere, and either it comes out of the millage, or it's going to have to be budgeted out of the budget next year. And that means maybe there's cuts in some of the staff, which we don't want to do that, or we're going to have to take the money from somewhere else. And I kind of agree with Dan and Vice Mayor Spataro.
Commissioner Johnson?
Well, speaking of cuts or finding the money somewhere, as the city manager indicated, that approval of this millage is freeing up $500,000 because we're currently funding the street lighting out of our general fund. So we're freeing up $500,000, of which some of that money can go toward street sweeping. But with regard, and we did just raise the general sanitation millage on that. But a question for you, Mohammed. Are our street lights currently unmetered?
Yes.
They are unmetered.
For 99%, because we have some that we own that are metered.
Okay, well then,
About 45 or 50.
then we do have the option to pursue a street lighting replacement program. It's on the Consumers Energy website, and we can pursue looking at getting LED street lighting throughout our city in order to lower our costs. So,
We did.
Again, I would just encourage continuing that
Okay.
route.
We did.
with
The
money.
payback is not going to be there. The payback, I think, is like 40 years. Because the rate that consumer has established for LED is $12.95 per pole.
Yeah, they do make it cost prohibitive, don't they? Yeah.
So the difference is like $5.
They're self-interest.
We've been chipping away at them for years, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the discussion when we passed the budget regarding the streetlights. I'd be happy if someone would enlighten me, but I thought we passed a budget that showed a deficit saying we would hope to be made whole if the millage passed. If it is not, we are going to be underwater for this year. We're going to be at a greater fiscal deficit in this current fiscal year. That's my understanding of the budget we passed, but if there's other...
There were a couple of things, if I may. I think we had the $150,000 increase, and Dan can elaborate a little bit more if talk about the budget, but I think we were about $350,000 or so. We were going to take it from the...
Well, if I may, and perhaps, since our finance director is here, perhaps he can enlighten us on some of these things. But I believe Commissioner Rizzo-Muskegon is quite correct. Our budget has a deficit. And so when we say we're just, what we're saying is that if this passes, we're not going to have to take money out of a diminishing stabilization fund that will cover the cost of that deficit until it's gone. And as you remember those budget projections, if something doesn't change, then we're not going to have any money in pretty short order. We're talking a very short window. And so this doesn't free up money for other things. What this does is it says we're actually going to be able to pay for the things that are in our budget. And I think we need to be clear on that.
Now, we did pass a balanced budget for this
Right.
year.
But it was in anticipation of this.
Right.
General funds balance, however, the street funds are sorely hurting it. And without this passing by the voters, then the city commissioners in particular would have to seriously eliminate some planned projects this current year. There would be a lot of projects, like about $1 million worth of things that wouldn't be able to be done.
But we did go back and rebalance the general fund. So when you say that general fund does show balance right now.
Yeah.
If I may just remember,
Break
if
even.
you remember, we had a couple of things that happened in that budget. One was the position that was going to be in the city manager's office. That was part of the $500,000 deficit. That was taken out, so that wasn't that position. And then an increase in the allocation helped us make up or bridge some of those, some of that shortfall, if you will. But also recognize that even at that budget, we talked about none of the capital improvement projects proposed for 2014-15 were funded at that time, at least the street ones. Were not funded, if you will, at that time. We were counting on this 4 mills to fund those streets, and I think we made it very clear at that time that if that doesn't pass, then we have to get back and recognize or do something with those streets.
Commissioner Johnson?
Absolutely correct. I do recall that the budget conversation, and that's what was clearly explained, that several local street projects were left essentially unfunded, would only be funded if we pass this millage. However, at that time, I didn't hear that same thing being said about street letting. My understanding was street letting was in the budget, and it was being budgeted for the full amount. So this would essentially free up that money for street lighting then, the $500,000, because it's currently being fully funded in our current budget, correct?
Street lighting is in the current budget as presented and as approved by the commission. Yes, that's correct.
But we also went through that exercise of the potential for the special assessment.
Yes.
Recognizing that we would be in the same deficit boat if this doesn't go through.
Yes,
So-
that we would, if I may, yes, that we would have to revisit that special assessment. If this millage did not pass, that we'd have to revisit the special assessment for street lighting. I still have to, I still would prefer street sweeping costs to be included with street maintenance construction. It wasn't discussed at the budget process in terms of it being covered by the millage. It wasn't discussed at either of our forums. And I would rather put that little bit extra money towards our roads. We desperately need investments in our roads, especially reconstruction throughout our city. That's really going to have the biggest impact on the improvement of our quality of life, and more likely to attract new residents and new businesses to invest here. So I'd be in favor of moving. I mean, let's not you know, dicker on this right now, and I'll make a formal motion.
There is a motion on the floor, Commissioner.
Right.
I will make a motion to amend, Vice Mayor, this resolution so as to move the annual street sweeping funding to street maintenance construction.
I'll support that.
It's been moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Turnquist, to transfer the proposed annual street sweeping funds of $190,000 cap to the street maintenance construction as an amendment to the motion currently on the floor. We go into discussion then.
I think, you know, this is an important issue and we should agree, because if we're gonna all go to the voters and ask to support it, we need to be supportive. I'm not 100% sure we're gonna get agreement right now, because I think that there's some thought that the street sweeping is a legitimate use, and so I would vote against this amendment. I don't know, maybe we should take some time and come to a consensus, because I think it'd be better to have a united voice on a clean resolution than a split vote on the breaking down some of the percentages of this total millage request.
I agree also. Street sweeping definitely wasn't discussed when we went out to the voters, and I think when you ask voters to pass a millage and you looking them straight in the eye, and these people count on you to be as transparent as possible, and I think we've been pretty transparent, but when something else is added in, it gives room for speculation, and they wonder, are you going to do what you said you're going to do? Now you done threw in a different line item. So that's my concern with that, and I hear Commissioner Turnquist's reasoning for why he's kind of suspicious about it, and money that should be funded back toward the street maintenance. So along with Commissioner Dan, I think that tabling this would be in the best interest of the commission, and so we can, like you said, be a united, you know, consensus with, you know, the vote.
Thank you, Your Honor. I concur with that. I think we have to be united in what we propose, and I will make a motion to table action on this item to our next work session. At that time, if we could have some budget numbers and show how these various items are currently funded and what our current budget balances are, so we can have an informed discussion on this topic, I think that would serve us all well. So I move to table this item until the October work session.
Support.
Has it been moved to table by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner dsetvmuskegon. Roll call, please.
Any discussion?
Not on table.
Not on table.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallron?
No.
Commissioner Hood?
No.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes?
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner dsetvmuskegon?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Any other business, please? Not for you. We already talked about your hair. And that this Thursday at 5:30 at the Muskegon Museum of Art will be the nation's first opening, recognizing the new memorial at Ground Zero in New York City and the tragedy of the terrorist attack of 9/11/2001. Commissioner Hood will be representing the commission and the citizens at the festivities or the celebration. And at that time, we'll be accepting a flag that had flown at the site on behalf of the citizens here, but also on behalf of the family of former Mayor Prime, whose son was one of the victims in the terrorist attack. So for those of you that can attend, I would encourage it. Again, this is the first in the nation, and the programming should be very moving as well as informative and a reminder of what we face as a people and how we ultimately respond in preserving and protecting our community, these United States. So thank you very much for stepping forward, Commissioner. Sure. Anything else? If not, we do have public comment. Ms. Bertha Williams, if you would like to come forward and take the podium, I just need your name and address. I see a description of your concern. Ultimately, and of course, I do want to, welcome you to, share your experience, but ultimately what I will be doing is be referring you to Dewana Thompson in our affirmative action office, so that between you and her, you can have the discussion so that she'll be able to do an adequate investigation into the issue and then report back to us as the commission. So there won't be action tonight on our behalf until the investigation or, getting into your situation has been complete, okay? But please, share your experience.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address Mr. Mayor, and the Commission. My name is Bertha Williams. My address is 1813 Dutchess Court, Muskegon, Michigan. And the reason for me coming here on tonight, the very first thing that I would like to say is that bad things happen when good people stand by and do nothing. Approximately 2.5 months ago, I appeared before the Commission with an appeal to be a part of the farmers market. I thank you all on tonight that was accomplished, and I did get a chance to do that. I began to sell, and however, I am still being harassed, I'm being discriminated against, and I'm being retaliated against from the market master, Ms. Lori Gomez. Mr. Mohammed Al-Shatel has failed to protect me from being harassed, and being discriminated against and being retaliated against. There are several incidents that have happened since the last time that I was here. I know that it is a huge mouthful, but I have to stand here on today because as a citizen of Muskegon, I deserve to have like this, enjoy the same entitlements as everyone else that lives in Muskegon. As you said, Mr. Mayor, that you would like for me to address my concerns with Mrs. Tawana. I've been there twice now. I've been to see Mr. Peterson. I have addressed everyone that I can address. I know the last thing that I wanted to do is to come back before the commission with an additional complaint, but the market master, along with Mr. Mohammed Al-Shatel, have tied my hands, so I had to come back before you and you know, just voice some of the complaints that I continuously am going through. So I will definitely voice my concerns to where you asked me to voice those concerns, but I just wanted to state on the record that it is a continuous thing, and I want to know who is going to be responsible for stopping what I'm going through.
Again, at this juncture, the procedure, the process would be to begin with Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
So that she can compile all the information and be able to, you know, present us with a finding from there, and then at that point, we can make a determination as to, you know, potential action. But until we have everything shushed out, you know, we, as a body, will have to wait for, you know, that to play out. But that is your, you know, official recourse at this juncture.
Yes, sir. May I ask just one more thing before I leave on today, sir? Could there be some type of cease and desist of harassing me and retaliating against me and discriminating against me until that decision is made?
Well, we'd have to look at the veracity and the validity of those accusations.
I
and
understand.
again, that would have to, you know, come through, you know, Ms. Thompson's office.
All right.
Okay.
I have a question, Mayor. Sure. Excuse me. Hi, Mr. Williams.
Hello.
I know you came down here before with your concerns, and I'm sad to hear that you're still experiencing this problem.
Thank you, sir.
As a business owner and you trying to get in the farmer's market, you said you did get a chance to go down there and sell. I guess the market master, how would you describe your relationship as a business owner and a professional with that market manager down there?
I've tried to be, whatever it is, I've been like a chameleon. Whatever she's asked me to do, I've done just that. I always behave myself in a professional manner, and I've gone above and beyond. There's been like hurdles, and I jump everyone that is placed before me. So I've tried to appease her in every area and every aspect of doing business at the market, but it doesn't seem to actually work.
Okay, so you're saying there's like, you comply with all the, I guess, rules and regulations.
Yes, sir.
And then it's steady, I guess, barriers that's actually being implemented, or some type of, I guess, reasoning for not allowing you to run a successful business? This
is very true. And what it is that I have noticed that people that are similarly situated, such as myself, they are, I guess I have noticed that they are actually infringing on those rules, but nothing is really being called out or pointed out against those people, but all the attention seems to be like drawn to me. I guess it's because I had excuse for a better term, the kahunas to come here and say exactly what is what. And because of that, I'm being retaliated against. And so my thing is that I hope after being here on tonight that all hell doesn't break loose again.
Okay.
Commissioner?
My question and that I'm wondering, and I think a few others are, you say that you're being harassed, discriminated, and retaliated against. Could you kind of elaborate on
Yes,
why
sir.
you feel?
Yes, sir, I will. One of the ways that I have been harassed is that in the market there is a clock that is, from my understanding, not set at the same time as the rest of the world. She goes by that clock. I came in at a certain point in time, and I was 10 minutes there on time. She said that the clock is 10 minutes slow, so I was late. So she yelled at me in front of every vendor that was there. I was thoroughly embarrassed, and at that time, a point in time, I took whatever it is that she had to do, and I complied to me drawing a ticket and waiting to be, after baking and having so many baked goods and everything, I waited for her to let me into the market on that day. Another incident is that each week, because I have like baked goods and cupcakes, I'm still placed in direct sunlight where other bakers seem to enjoy being in the shade. That's an ongoing process. Let's see what else. Like I say, I'm yelled at in front of every vendor. It's just to the point to where I don't know what to do anymore. I really don't.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, clearly these are very serious allegations.
Yes.
You know, I share concern that every person who wants to be a vendor at the market is treated fairly and even-handedly. I think the process outlined by the mayor is appropriate so that a thorough and fair investigation can be conducted, and a report made back to this body on those findings, and if action needed to be taken, has to be taken, that either if it's administrative, it can be addressed at that level and reported to us, or we would be free to act at that point based on those findings. I think the seriousness of these allegations merit that seriousness of investigation, and not basically a cursory review that would be, you know, the best we could do sitting here as a non-investigative body. So I strongly urge you to, tomorrow, as soon as possible at least, to initiate that with Mrs. Thompson.
Yes, sir.
In the Affirmative Action Office. I take what you're saying very seriously. I know everyone up here does. And if there is a finding of inappropriate action on the part of city staff, that will be dealt with according to city policy and procedure.
Thank you,
sir. And that means it will be corrected.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else? Commissioner Johnson?
I concur completely with the Vice Mayor. And it's unfortunate you're having difficult experience at the farmer's market, and all our vendors should be treated equally and with respect.
Thank you, sir.
And so, as the Vice Mayor suggested, as the Mayor suggested, pursue that process with Duana. I understand earlier you said you had reached out to Mohammed and Frank, so if they had conducted any investigation themselves or looked into this in any manner since then, if you could share your findings with Duana so that she can compile that and put it into a complete report and share with the commission, I think that would be a good step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. What is the process of investigation with Ms. Duana Thompson? Is it a group, a committee? Because I know we don't have an EEOC committee, and that would actually take action, or like some type of watchdog committee that would oversee those type of allegations or complaints.
Yeah, could you?
Well, I guess my expectation would be that we would have some sort of written complaint from the complainant, and it would come to me to review, and we would go to whoever the complainant against. We obviously want to follow the chain of command and go through their, go through their department up through Muhammad's office and into my office, and see if we can remedy the situation that way, would be the plan.
Actually, I would like to see, I mean, because this is another complaint, you know, that I would say somewhat is come from a citizen that who has expressed some type of injustice, to say. And to be frank, a lot of times when I hear these complaints is African Americans, black, whoever, I don't see a lot of barriers in Caucasians when they're doing businesses or complaints. I see the city working with them a lot, and I'm not saying that, you know, I don't know everything, but this is the way it is. These are the facts, and let's be realistic about it. And I think that the investigation is a good step, but I would like to see something really put in place. Actually, I would like to see the EEOC committee started back up so we can have more oversight. Maybe a watchdog committee to see over these different departments. And if, you know, whatever procedure we have to take to do that, I'd like to, you know, see that happen. If I have to make a motion tonight to implement that, I could do that. Is that a possibility? To start an EEOC committee back up?
And we could handle that under the, our CRC.
Yeah, but I mean, is it possible that, I mean, can I make a motion to see that the EEOC committee is started back up and get some support and maybe have some discussion and table that later? That's the process.
Well, let's discuss that in a minute after we
Okay.
resolve
Okay.
the next step in the process with the complainant.
My comment was in response to Commissioner German, so maybe it's not relevant.
Okay. But at this juncture, if we could begin, you know, as I've suggested.
Yes, sir.
And carry through the process, and we'll get staff, you know, working with you and see what we can do to come to a resolution.
I appreciate that tonight, sir. I'd also like to say, just as to lighten things up, my suggestion as far as the street sweeping is concerned, give everybody a broom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the discussion on, you wanted to discuss the, looking at re-energizing the EEOC.
Right, right. If I can make a motion, if that's the process, I'd like to make a motion to start up the EEOC committee and have, I guess, a watchdog site, portion of it to oversee these type of complaints and actions. Also, over departments as well, if needed.
Mr. Mayor, I certainly was.
On the floor? Yes.
There hasn't been a second yet.
A second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would suggest that legislating on the fly is rarely going to produce a good outcome. I served on the EEOC committee for many years. There is a desperate need for that body, but we need to have a body that is within the law, because there is a legal basis for establishing that body and what it can and cannot do, and what its membership should consist of, and so on. So I would suggest the appropriate thing to do is to reserve action on this item until we have our next community relation meeting, which is less than 30 days away, and have a thorough discussion with some staff preparation on what that committee would look like, who would staff it, how many members, those kinds of things, and if nothing else, to take what we had before as a basis to start, so that we could have a reasonable discussion on that and make an informed decision. Because I certainly support restarting up our Equal Employment Opportunity Committee and the functions that it has. I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way, and we all know what it can and can't do, and that we're all comfortable with that. Also, we're going to have to make sure that we have citizen members, because you remember, that's a citizen body.
Exactly.
So that we can hopefully have some appointments to get that started. So I would suggest that we take action at that Community Relations Committee where we can have that preparatory material, make an informed decision, and get it implemented in a timely way.
Because there are enabling laws that we'll have to re-educate ourselves on and all. Would that be amenable to putting it into the next CRC so that we can have all our homework done?
It sounds good to me. I think so. You want to be as detailed as possible and as knowledgeable as possible.
And again, like, the Vice Mayor was saying, what that type of body can and cannot do, because, we can find ourselves that, there are firewalls that would prohibit it from imposing itself on, the administration of, of city function, but could look at other things. But we gotta know what it can and cannot do and create it accordingly and appropriately. Okay?
So we're going to put this on the agenda for our next Community Relations Committee meeting for Monday, October 13th, after our work session? Okay. In which case, do we need a motion to table
Yes.
until after that?
We need a motion to refer to that meeting, yeah.
To refer to that meeting.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga to table discussion on reestablishing an EEOC committee until the next work session to be held October 13th.
Clarification, that's Community Relations Committee, correct?
Yeah, right, the Community Relations Committee, October 13th, 2014, following the work session. Any discussion?
No, it's a motion to table.
Oh, that's right, we tabled it.
So we got a vote.
Roll call.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Did
my
you have,
full support
any-
on that, Willie.
Did you have additional
It's needed.
business,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Rochelle?
Yeah.
I wanted to give you an update of what we have done, or what I have done since, unless, if you're not interested, I'm okay.
On this issue,
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to get a report from Ms. Thompson. This isn't really the appropriate forum to conduct an investigative. It's just not appropriate. It puts people in a very awkward position. We're on television. People may be uncomfortable by that. Not everybody involved is here. I think the process outline needs to be followed, and we should allow staff to go through that interview process as well as the complainant.
Anybody else agree or disagree with the Vice Mayor and allow Mr. Al-Chatel to give some type of update at this point?
I agree. I think it'd be better to wait.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there any other business? Any other members of the public would like to speak? If not, I'll...
Mayor, new business.
Oh.
Just wondering, I noticed that the planning commission packets aren't uploaded to our city website, just the agenda. And in pursuit of the utmost transparency, can we, moving forward, have our planning commission packets, the full packet uploaded to the website rather than just the agenda?
He's taking a note.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay. And what's the standard for updating the agenda for the website for the planning commission? Because I noticed it didn't get, our economic development planning person is gone, but I noticed we didn't get the agenda to upload it until today, and I've been asking for several days about that, and so there was just a many-day delay on that. So I wonder if we can get a standard and stick with it, a week in advance or something at least, rather than 2 days in advance.
The commission agenda is usually uploaded the Friday before a Tuesday meeting, so that seems reasonable.
Thursday, but actually I would.
Thursday for us.
Yeah,
It goes on the public website Friday morning.
Yeah. I've seen it Thursday evening sometimes, but I guess, neither here nor there, Thursday or Friday. But actually, that's a good point, Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga, because I would actually encourage moving that forward, if possible, by a day or two, to give both commissioners as much advance time to give consideration of these issues and get questions, pose questions and get answers, and as well as to give the public
Understand they prepare the agenda on Wednesday.
that could be
And
adjusted.
so, well, at some point,
If
if you're
the
gonna
city
have a meeting
manager-
every 2 weeks, you gotta have enough time for your staff to actually prepare the items for the agenda for our review. So I think, you know, you can only push things back so far before you bump into the meeting that was just held. I think that, you know, the fact that it's on the website, that it's published, it's available at the clerk's office, it's available at the library. You know, MLive runs regular items on what's being run or addressed at the city commission. You know, I think the publicity's out there. You know, can these things be tweaked? Sure. But I don't think that's a decision that should be made sitting at the end of a commission meeting where there's, you know, been already a lot of discussion. I think that may be something to come up at a work session, and we can see what's practical and doable.
In all areas.
I would just make a point too that the earlier we make it, the more changes we're gonna have.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of a continuum. You can, at what point is it gonna be perfect? I don't know, but I don't like it. Personally, I prefer less the last minute changes that weren't included on a rather final agenda, because those get less. That's just my sense of how the whole balance goes. So, but I agree.
The packet is automatically loaded on Friday at 9 a.m. to the public. Our deadline to get it to the city commissioners is Thursday at 3 p.m. Sometimes we do push that deadline based on staff members trying to find last-minute information for you, because we want to send out only one packet, and we don't want to send out supplements to it. We do our very best, because that becomes confusing to you when we do things at the last minute. But that is what the time frame is, and we start putting it together on Tuesday. In fact, the staff, their deadline is Tuesday to get it to us. So then we have to pose it to go to a meeting to decide what's going to be on there with the city manager on Wednesday. Then we spend the rest of Wednesday and all of Thursday to get it out there. So just if that helps explain, it is like pretty much the whole week that we're working on it.
Okay. Any other business?
If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hood, seconded by the Vice Mayor to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Kathy just came back, she just parked.
Is that?
I was telling her that you guys were questioning that.